Welcome to another episode of Midnight Movies. Today we're going to look at something that's technically not a movie, but it's close enough. And as usual, I don't shy away from spoilers, so keep that in mind. Marvel's Netflix exclusive series, The Defenders, the culmination of all the currently existing Marvel Netflix shows. Over the years, Marvel has provided the perfect example of how to bring all the different pieces of a comic book universe to life. Not only on the big screen, but on the small screen too. They took their time developing several heroes in their own movies and origin stories before mashing them together in the Avengers, instead of fast-forwarding and just having them appear in each other's movies without even establishing them as their own characters first. As a comic book fan, watching all these different parts of the Marvel Universe come to life has been absolutely magical. With the Avengers, we have the corner of the Marvel Universe that handles the big, world-ending threats. Thor brought us the world of Norse mythology and gods. Doctor Strange is the side of magic and all kinds of alternate dimensions. And Guardians of the Galaxy introduced us to the massive cosmic side of Marvel. But there was one side of the Marvel Universe we hadn't seen in the MCU yet at all. The smaller and much grittier world of the street-level heroes. The ones that handle the threats affecting everyday people on the streets of New York, while the rest of the Marvel heroes are away fighting space monsters and supervillains. That's where the Netflix series comes in, and The Defenders brings together our street-level heroes beautifully. And it really is different from the comic books of the same name. Aside from the new Defenders comics that are inspired directly by the Netflix series, that has the same lineup of Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones. The Defenders originally started out as one of the most ridiculously powerful teams in Marvel Comics, made of Namor, Hulk, and Doctor Strange, and later even adding Silver Surfer into the mix. This new version of the Defenders is more similar to the Marvel Knights, which did include Daredevil and Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, who is a very similar character to Iron Fist. But I think using the Defenders name does make more sense for this team-up. The major focus of the stories in the Netflix shows were always on a smaller scale compared to the big-budget Marvel movies. Daredevil was trying to stop Kingpin from destroying Hell's Kitchen, Jessica Jones was struggling with her past and the Purple Man's obsession with her, Luke Cage was working to wipe out crime from Harlem, and Iron Fist came back to a world he barely recognized while trying to figure out what he was meant to do with his mystical powers. What I think The Defenders does best is bringing all these characters and their stories together naturally. None of it felt forced. All their stories are a continuation of where they were before, leading all of them to the mystical ninja organization of the Hand, who was usually in the background manipulating events. Daredevil was directly involved with the Hand in Season 2 of Daredevil, and in The Defenders, he's still struggling with the loss of Elektra and fighting against his urge to put the suit back on and go fight crime. But he just can't resist it, and he's thrust back into the fight when the Hand returns with a plot to destroy all of New York City. Luke Cage, on the other hand, is trying to track down the criminals that are hiring kids in Harlem to do their dirty work. And Jessica Jones takes a case for her private investigation firm that takes her to a man that designed a building for the Hand. And Iron Fist returns home to New York after tracking down members of the Hand worldwide. All of their separate circumstances happen to lead them all to the same place at the same time.
Jessica?
Luke,
How you been?
long story.
We have to get out of here.
Who's he?
Longer story.
Uh-oh.
The strength of this show is the relationship between the Defenders and their clashing personalities. Part of the Hand's plot involves them bringing Elektra back to life and using her to their own purposes. And this causes a lot of tension between Daredevil and the rest of the team, because every time Elektra pops up, Daredevil almost abandons the rest of them to go chase after her. So they have this kind of a distrust towards him at first. Jessica Jones has no real desire to help people by using her powers. She's in this situation where she just wants to solve her case, go home, and drink, because all this mystical crap happening is too much for her to handle. And she's still going around with her bitchy attitude, and I love it, because it's such a different personality from all the other female superheroes we've seen on screen so far, and it creates some genuinely funny moments with the rest of the team.
You look like an asshole.
It's your scarf.
The scarf looked better. Nice ears.
They're horns.
And there's little hints strung throughout that Jessica and Luke Cage may have some kind of future together in this world too. In the comics, after all, they did get married and even had a kid together. My favorite relationship in this show is easily the one between Luke Cage and Iron Fist. I was dying to see these two work together. One is slower and insanely strong, the other is fast and skilled in martial arts. They're polar opposites in their style, and that makes for an awesome team up in a fight, and the series showcases this well by having Luke Cage act as this bulletproof wall protecting Iron Fist, and then Iron Fist just darts out from behind him with his kung fu moves. And the scene when they met was hilarious. Iron Fist hitting Luke Cage multiple times, and Luke Cage just throws him around like a rag doll and just looks at him like, bitch please. But then he activates his Iron Fist and sends Luke Cage flying. This scene forced me to let out a cheer. And I also love their back and forth banter. You can slowly see these two becoming friends, and this was most definitely done on purpose. In the comic book world, we have Heroes for Hire, which was a series that teamed up Luke Cage and Iron Fist in a crime-fighting business that Luke Cage started. I'm hoping that Netflix has this plan for the future, because seeing these two characters specifically working together was a treat.
Don't get too used to it.
What? We make quite a team.
Oh, let's not use that word. Look, I'm not looking for super friends.
Yeah. You keep on telling yourself that. Last one?
And I find it amazing how when Iron Fist is telling Luke Cage how he got his powers by punching a dragon through his heart, he's just in this complete disbelief.
No, there wasn't.
I mean, come on. They live in a world that has publicly seen a wormhole appear over New York City as aliens came through. Robots tried using a country as an asteroid to destroy the planet. And the Defenders are fighting mystical ninjas that return from death over and over. Is it really that much of a stretch to believe that someone punched a dragon in a mystical land and got powers? And I really appreciate the importance they gave Iron Fist to the plot, with his direct connection to the Hand. Even though I enjoyed his Netflix series, it wasn't as well received as the rest of them were. And Iron Fist has always been one of my favorite, almost C-list Marvel heroes. It was great seeing that he was crucial to the story here, forcing him in and giving him a chance to develop even more as a character. Iron Fist is supposed to be this martial arts master, but you may notice that his hot-headed nature gets him to get his ass kicked pretty regularly. But in his defense, he is still learning and developing into his own character. By the end of the show, the path for him to become a crime fighter is pretty clear as he's standing over a rooftop looking over the city with his glowing fist after being inspired by Daredevil to use his powers to protect the city. I really like this idea, because in the comics, Daredevil and Iron Fist are really good friends, with Iron Fist even taking over the Daredevil persona for a while as a favor. All the side characters from the rest of the shows are here, including Stick, who's still this merciless old man that Daredevil does not get along with at all. And Colleen, who isn't officially a defender, but she could easily be one with her katana skills, and she fits right in. Misty Knight is back too, and honestly, I thought she was kind of annoying. She's that typical character that has no idea what's going on, and she's constantly getting in the way of the good guys doing their job. And this might sound awful, but I thought it was awesome near the end when she lost her arm, because that's a huge deal if you know the comics, in which Misty Knight has a robotic arm. So I'm hoping that we see that in the future too. Probably designed by Stark Industries or something, I'm sure. And the main villains in the show are the Hand, but more specifically the 5 leaders of the Hand, known as the 5 Fingers of the Hand. Led by Sigourney Weaver, it is always a pleasure seeing her in any role she's in, and her acting is always top-notch. These 5 leaders have existed for centuries, having figured out how to survive death, partially by using a mysterious substance they discovered a long time ago. And over time, they formed the Hand, to secretly manipulate events behind the scenes and being responsible for the destruction of several cities like Pompeii and Chernobyl. I don't recall anything specifically like this from the Marvel Comics, but this heavily reminds me of Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows from DC Comics. Ra's al Ghul also uses a mysterious substance to come back from death over and over, and the League of Shadows also has destroyed cities throughout history. And after bringing Elektra back to life, the Hand manipulates her and uses her to attack the Defenders. I thought Elektra was the weakest part of the show overall. She might be the skilled killer trained by the Hand, but she doesn't really seem like much of a real threat when you put her up against someone like Luke Cage, who she literally can't kill. And I have the same problem with her that I did with Hawkeye in the first Avengers movie. She spent most of her time as a mindless, brainwashed bad guy. And when it starts getting interesting with her remembering her past, she just decides to take over the Hand and continue being a bad guy because Her motivation for this never really seemed clear to me, and I thought it could have been handled much better. I also thought the cinematography was really well done in this show, and it gives it a very specific feel. There's plenty of shots where the camera goes around in 360 degrees, giving you a full view of everything in the room, shots with the camera turning sideways as Daredevil's walking away as he blurs, and they also use light to create certain effects too. When Daredevil is on screen, we tend to see red lighting somewhere in the picture. When Luke is around, we see a very yellow hue. It's not in-your-face lighting like in the Batman and Robin movie from the 90s, where colors were everywhere and it looked like a rave. It's very subtle, where a color-oriented technique like that should be. The Defenders is a solid addition to the MCU, and does exactly what it set out to do. Bring 4 established characters together under a single banner, while creating just enough episodes to get viewers like me to want even more. Netflix just continues to do an outstanding job bringing these worlds to life, and I'm hoping to see more in the future aside from these characters. We already have the Punisher, one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, in his own Netflix series coming later this year, which I will most definitely review. And now that we know that people love these street level characters, I think it's time that we got a Moon Knight Netflix series, and a proper Ghost Rider one. If you enjoyed this review, leave me a like and a comment down below with your thoughts. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Twitter. This is Fabian. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.